My name is Kristin Tally. I'm a member here at Victorious Believers Ministries. I've attended this church since I was 9 years old. Most people would define me as happy-go-lucky. I tend to keep to myself sometimes, but pretty active in ministry. I've been in leadership before. I did the fine arts department for 10 years, on stage, behind scenes. Active and productive and involved with everything that I could be a part of: missions, youth ministry. And then I go to church and I go home, and most people don't know that I dealt with depression most of my life, ever since I was a child. And not the depression that where you would be sad for a little bit and maybe you would cry and you would deal with some sadness and you'd pray about it and you could get back up. But we're talking about the crippling, back-breaking pain in my body. I can't go to work for several days, depression, and I dealt with it for 2 decades. It came to a head this year when I found myself unable to cope with the emotions I was dealing with, and my doctor committed me to the psych ward of the Covenant Hospital for suicidal ideations. And one of the darkest moments of my life actually turned out to be one of the brightest moments of my life. It gave me a moment to reset. It gave me time to stop and pay attention to not only what was happening to my body and my mind, but also listening to what God was saying in that moment. And a lot of what he was saying was I needed to pay attention to the doctors that were around me and ask for help. I'm a very self-sufficient person. I'm a prideful person, although most people wouldn't think that. I don't want to ask for help. I thought asking for help meant that I was weak or that I wasn't strong enough to handle it on my own, or that I somehow wasn't spiritually mature enough because I couldn't pray my way through it. In that period that I wound up in the hospital, I learned to drop that pride. I also learned to drop a lot of the condemnation and shame and humiliation that I had been carrying for 20 years about what was going on with my mind and what was going on with my mental health, and listen to the doctors and what they were saying. I got a good team of doctors around me who got me on the right medication. They hooked me up with a great Christian counselor who I see 1 time a week, and I get to talk to him and I get to process through the emotions that I've been going through that week. We get to put things in perspective, and really that's the biggest thing about therapy, is that you get to put some of these thoughts and the things that are going around in your head and that are being spoken to you. You get to put those in perspective and put those in the right voice and put those in the positive light that they actually are. And sometimes those things that are so dark and foreboding to us, that are causing depression or that are causing us anxiety, aren't as bad as we're seeing them. And you begin to learn coping skills. But not only that, it allowed me to have better quiet times with God, because I knew what I was phrasing to him. I knew what I was praying about. I knew that he was there even in the dark times, because he talked to me so much while I was in the hospital, that he talked to me more than I had ever heard him talk before. And it was the most encouraging and comforting thing that I had ever had happen to me. And so this is not to say that I came out of the hospital and there's no more bad days. That every day is a day that I get up and I'm chipper, I'm cheerful, and I'm Snow White with animals alighting on my limbs. But it is to say that even on those days, I have joy. So I can be sad and depressed, but still have joy. And that is totally different than where I was before. And a lot of that is because I was able to humble myself, and God loves someone who is humble and able to surrender and just ask for help. I would encourage anyone who is dealing with mental health issues to go get help. Seek your medical doctor, seek a therapist. They can get you in touch with the right people. The help is out there, the help that you need. Talk to your pastor, talk to a trusted friend. You're not alone, you're not by yourself, and most importantly, God is with you in the middle of every storm that you're going through, and He's going to be there on this side, and He's going to be there on the other side.